Martucci, the town clerk here in Madison. And tonight we're here for the annual town meeting. And the legal notice read as an annual town meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the town of Madison, Connecticut will be held via Zoom. Link was www.madisonct.org on Wednesday, January 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. Number one, review the state of the town report. Number two, review 5-year capital plan. And number three, to receive the annual report of the permanent boards, commissions, agencies, committees, and the town's auditor report in accordance with Article 2, Section 2.1.4.1 of the town charter. And that was dated in Connecticut, the 12th day of January, 2021. According to our charter, 2.1.1, since we do not have a quorum of 75, the annual report and auditor report are approved. And First Selectwoman Peggy Lyons will now do a presentation.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order the town meeting and just please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let me get it up on the screen here. And there we go. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All
For the
right.
recording, that was John Picard.
I think Lauren actually muted me during the Pledge of Allegiance, so I did say it if no one heard me, but I was muted. So first of all, I want to just welcome everybody who's attending tonight, or for those who maybe watch the video later. So with new technology, it creates all kinds of options to watch the town meeting. I want to welcome my members of the Board of Selectmen who are all in attendance. And I also see many members of our Board of Finance and our Board of Education, as well as town staff. So just want to say welcome to you and thank you for joining us tonight on the state of the town. Tonight, what we're going to cover is just provide an update on COVID and where we are as a community, talk about our community strengths and challenges, some progress that we've made over this last year, the budget and some of the recent trends. Also look at our debt profile, our capital plan, and talk about the status of some major projects. Starting with COVID, which is something that has dominated our lives dramatically since March. You know, the town currently is working in consortium with 3 or 4 other communities for a vaccine rollout. We are kind of at the mercy of both the federal government and the state government, which controls who's eligible to get vaccinated and any supplies that we receive or how things are distributed. But we're working closely with agencies at the state level to make sure that we can provide what we need to for our citizens. Right now, the prioritization has been for citizens 75 years and older. And we know this has been very challenging, especially since it requires a lot of technological skills to get access to the vaccine management system. And so the town is very much focusing on trying to reach that population, getting people registered in vans, and we're actually starting to launch what we hope to be weekly clinics at the town campus gym for vaccinations. And it's really dependent on supply, but from some news I received today, there is an expectation that the state is going to be receiving a significant increase in vaccine supplies over the next couple of weeks. So we're hoping to maintain this regular clinic on a weekly basis. We cannot exclude it to our residents only. We have to offer it to all the public. But we are trying to give our residents a heads up about when the vaccine clinic is going live. So I encourage everybody to sign up for our vaccine survey so they get the most up-to-date information about clinics in Madison. And just to step back a little bit, since this is kind of the state of the town, clearly COVID has had a huge impact on our community over the last year. And we've been really navigating through all of us together, a huge public health crisis that we haven't seen in over 100 years. And that has impacted the economy, creating a kind of unpredictable economic environment. We've had the impact of climate change just through the different storms we've seen this last year. Tornadoes are becoming a thing in Connecticut, as well as coastal storms. And then obviously we've had a lot of civil unrest over the last year, and the town, even our town, has had to address issues with protests and citizens wanting to speak out against things. So it's been a very unusual 12 months. 2020, I'm sure we're all glad to put it behind us and move forward. And then in addition, the executive orders resulting from the pandemic have changed basically how government is operated. And so the fact that we're having this meeting virtually rather than being in person is just highlights how different the world has changed over the last 12 months since I last gave this presentation. And the town has had to react quickly and rapidly to adjust to that. And our workforce has had to go remote at times. And we've really had to provide services on a remote basis to the town and really challenge our citizens to figure out how to access government without in-person services. So this has been a huge shift in terms of how people get access to town government. We've also mobilized our public safety resources, including the police and fire and ambulance and our health department, in ways we never thought we would have to. Who would have thought we'd have to limit the number of people that could actually walk on the beach? And that's been a big challenge, trying to implement policies to maintain public safety, and also requiring our first responders to do things that they've never had to do before. And really, and I think they've all risen to the occasion tremendously, and my hats off are to all of them. I think our town has done an exceptional job of weathering this over the last 12 months, but it has really changed the way Madison has operated. And to say that, though, I think that we have a lot of community strength supporting us throughout this pandemic. We live in a wonderful town that really aligned with this type of public health crisis. We have low density living. We have lots of outdoor amenities. We have lots of services to offer people in our community. Many of our residents were able to adapt to remote working, where they could work from home. And that's not true for everybody, but we were fortunate that we did have a lot of our population that were able to make that shift more easily than others. We have a very vibrant downtown, and I think we all appreciated that. And I know some businesses have really suffered throughout this, and some have had to close. But despite all that, we still were able to really use our restaurants and retail shops and a lot of community outpouring and support for them. We also had a lot of volunteers step up. A lot of people donate money to help those in need. So we've really just had a great community to weather this public health crisis. We've also, I think our economic profile has helped us, and we've weathered it well. Our unemployment rate is lower than relative to the state and the nation. We have a strong small business community, and our real estate market is booming. People are moving to communities like ours because of just a lifestyle change as a result of the pandemic. And we've seen that through a huge increase in transactions through our town clerk's office. And we've seen that through the building department. People are investing in their homes, making changes, and they're, appreciating Madison and kind of doubling down, so to speak, by investing in their homes. And to top that all off, we've been very fortunate because we have very good town finances. And I know a lot of other towns in Connecticut have not been so fortunate. Our tax collections are on track. And we have a sizable reserve built up in our savings. And we have low levels of debt coupled with a very strong bond rating. So our town finances are strong despite what we are seeing happen both throughout Connecticut and throughout our nation. So we're grateful for that. Challenges, there's still many. And I think one of the biggest thing is going to be how do we transition from the COVID world to the non-COVID world, and kind of going back to what might be a new normal. Vaccinations, and that's really the number one priority thing for all of us. Our economy will rebound if we can vaccinate all our residents. And we are committed to doing that. And I want to assure all our residents that eventually everybody who wants a vaccine will be able to get access to a vaccine. Um, we also have to be wary of the longer term impacts of COVID on people's both physical health for those who have suffered from COVID, but also just the mental health of the pandemic. So many at all age levels, whether it's homebound seniors or families with children, have really encountered a lot of mental health issues, and it's created new challenges for us as a town to help these people. Um, the sustainability of our local businesses in the long run. We've been fortunate to have many of them stay in business. Many have made some short-term decisions to close, but we hope they all will come back online when things start to open up again in Connecticut. And then we just need this long-term vision, I think, to guide our government decision-making. This is something that I noted in my presentation last year, that the strategic plan concept, so that as we work through and start to make investment, where do we want to go with it? And how do we want to do it? And we need that vision. And then I think we really are going to be challenged with, unfortunately, there's been kind of a lack of investment over the last probably 10 years in our town, where I think we've kicked the can down the road, which is, I know, an overused phrase, but whether it's the school buildings or some of our town buildings, we learned that our vehicle fleet is really needing an upgrade. These are all things that we really have to address now and start planning for the future and investing in our future. So those are some of the challenges that we're going to be facing. In light of all this, I would like to point out that we have made some accomplishments, just kind of more routine, I would say, government accomplishments that the Board of Selectmen has done, as well as town government. From a policy standpoint, the Board of Selectmen has launched a number of new citizen-driven committees to address a lot of things that the community was seeing. And I would just highlight maybe the most notable being the Charter Review Commission, which is going to look at our town government, and hopefully we will take in the next 12 to 18 months charter revision proposals to improve access to government and how our government functions. And then also Island Avenue, which is a major high profile town facility that currently is being leased to a private school. And the intention is to work through a process so that the town can make a decision. I think my goal is to really have us start making decisions and moving forward on a lot of these projects. We've also, as a board, updated some ordinances, including just one the other day where we updated the property tax exemption for volunteer fire, some tax incentive changes. We're going to be reviewing the floodplain management ordinance, and that is probably likely to come out in March. And then internally, we're looking at senior tax relief, and I hope to bring forward some amendments and changes and updates to the senior tax relief programs that we have, because we're realizing there's some things that aren't user friendly and just maybe aren't reaching the community as much as it should. And then finally, we've done some studies, and I know a lot of people think studies and consultants, but these are really important to help us make good decisions in the long run. And so this townwide facilities study is probably the most significant that's going to drive a lot of our decision making about our town buildings. The vehicle study that we talked about is another one I want to highlight that has just shown that we really have not adequately invested in our fleet vehicles. And this is not just cars, but I'm talking all the trucks that plow the roads on snowy nights like we had yesterday, and that work throughout town doing projects for public works. So those are things that I think that have been good that we've been moving forward on. From an operational standpoint, we have made a big effort to improve communications, and I think we started with baby steps with the live streaming in March and started developing a communications plan, and then COVID came. And so obviously communications became absolutely critical. And so taking that thought process of reaching out to the communities through the CT alert system, we've implemented a new system called Madison alerts, so that people can get weekly information about what's going on in the community, and just be on top of things. In terms of operations and services, obviously beach management, that was a problem that I had pledged to tackle at the beginning of last year. And I think layering in COVID, it was challenging, but I think we were able to deliver a reasonable beach experience this summer. fully staffed with gate guards and lifeguards. And we were able to sell beach passes online. So, and that's something we want to continue to see going forward. There's also a lot of other things operationally that we're working on to improve things. And just to make sure that town government is more efficient. One of the bigger things was we launched a early retirement incentive plan, which some of our employees had chosen to take advantage of that. And so we're rethinking kind of how some of our departments are structured. And we're actually launching a merger of the Beach and Recreation Department with Senior Services. And there'll be more information coming out about that. That really just is creating an opportunity to improve services, create cost efficiencies, and hopefully evolve and change and make it a more customer kind of consumer friendly experience for people with those two departments. So that's some of the things that we've been able to do from an operational standpoint over the last year. In terms of the budget, I think we've been relatively had low growth budgets and low taxes over these last few years. We've also experiencing declining debt. We've seen the high school bonds kind of come off, but the library bonds come on at a much lower level. And we've also seen a huge increase in our reserve levels. And so the town has kind of been accumulating savings and also collections have been very above forecast, and has allowed us to accumulate a huge undesignated fund balance. And so it positions us very well to start tackling some of our significant capital needs. And we don't anticipate this next year's budget, where we're in the process of working on that, being dramatically different from previous years. It's going to be somewhat in line, but we're also going to try to use this as an opportunity to tackle some of those things that have just been kind of kicked down the road, and try to tackle some of these problems up front rather than keep postponing some decisions. So the good news is that, I think we're in a good position. We're fortunate that as a town, we were able to offer no taxes increases during the last tax cycle. I think people are really appreciative of that, given the economic circumstances and the unknown that we were dealing with back in the spring. And speaking of, just to highlight real quickly again, in terms of what our debt profile is, as I mentioned, we're kind of coming off the high school bonds. We're ramping up a little bit on the library bonds, but clearly we have very low debt levels and debt service obligations. So there's lots of, it just helps and makes us challenge some of, or make decisions about some of the future challenges we face, particularly as it relates to the school. So this is not assuming any kind of new bonding right now, this chart. It's just forecasting where we are today with a total debt of about $23 million. In terms of the capital investment, this basically shows what is spent each year from the capital plan. And then we budget every year kind of mini savings accounts for different projects. And last night, the CIP committee actually had a public hearing. There's a lot of detail behind this that I won't get into, that talks about what projects are in the plan, what the priorities are. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about projects, but typically in the past, we were maybe trying to grow our capital spending at lower rates. I think that has caught up to us a little bit, and that's why we're going to need to maybe put some more money into capital expenditures in order to address some of our aging facilities and our fleet. And that'll be part of the budgeting process that we go through this year for the next fiscal year. In terms of major projects, some of the more high profile ones, sorry, I skipped ahead here, is Downtown Center project. We still have 3 outstanding easements that we're working to conclude. And I'm requesting funding to complete at least phase 1, which involves bringing the telephone poles down. So if we get funding in place and can get these easements resolved, we can get the poles down. And finally, really, I think, offer a huge improvement to our downtown. The Madison School renewal plan, most of the building improvements are right now that are in the capital plan are focused on must do's, because we really need an answer on the bigger plan for the schools. And I think that frankly is driving a lot of our capital expenditure decisions because, we're talking $85 million school proposal that would require bonding. And so the budgeting right now is focusing on must do's until we can kind of move forward the school renewal plan and take it to referendum. Academy School, is a tricky one because we ended up postponing the planned referendum last year because of COVID. And we're now in the throes of this town facility study. Once we have more information back from that facility study, I think we'll reevaluate Academy. I think the other challenge with Academy is one of the concepts that we had been talking about was creating more of an arts and culture center. The arts community has been absolutely decimated from the COVID pandemic. It's really taken a huge blow to their businesses. And so I think we need to step back and reflect on what the options are for Academy, but at the same point, also, have an opportunity to review what the town facility recommendations are. Surf Club we're going to need to do a master plan. And I think that's something we all agreed was the right move to make forward. Because of climate change and coastal resiliency issues, the building needs a lot of investment in it. We need to step back and really look at how we take that whole facility, the whole property, and try to maximize that for the community's benefit. And the town will have a lot of opportunity to provide input on what that master plan would be. Island Avenue, the committee on Island Future Use Committee made a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, some recommendations, and the process is kind of in the Board of Selectmen's hands now with the thought of going forward with an RFP. Ultimately, that process will likely lead to some sort of referendum, possibly in 2022, where the town can make a decision on Island Avenue. Town fleet is just what I mentioned before. We have a very aging fleet of vehicles in town that are, I think on average, we're like 15 years old. They need significant replacement, and we need to kind of shorten the replacement cycle for these vehicles. And then the fire department, I know they're eager they're kind of bumping up some walls in terms of their equipment and their space. And so this will be on the horizon for the Board of Selectmen to talk about. And then just a lot of other projects. And until this facility study is done, I think the plan is to just put things on hold or, unless they're essential. Until we can kind of come back and have some broader plan using the townwide facility study as a building block. And then finally, kind of initiatives for this next year. And I think my number one goal is to get everybody vaccinated in Madison that wants to be vaccinated. And so that is something that, the town is going to continue to put as a priority. We are marshaling all resources of town staff to ensure that seniors get assistance. And as more vaccine is available, we will try to offer as many clinics as possible so that people can have an opportunity locally to get vaccinated. And then I think, just this whole transition from living under executive orders in a public health emergency and merging back into kind of a normalized way of being, the whole town is going to be working on that over the next 12 months. I do want to launch the strategic planning process. I talked a lot about this last year. And unfortunately, I think certain things just had to fall lower in the priority. But the one thing I've learned as we've gone through the budgeting process and the capital planning process is we need that guiding light so that we make our decisions with a guiding light. And that's what the strategic plan should offer us. And then I think continuing to improve town operations. We're looking at other possible reorganizations within town government. And then really, I think we have to make a decision on the schools. And I would love to bring the school renewal plan to a town vote in this year in 2021. And obviously that will be something driven by the Board of Education. But I know that I feel that we cannot make any long-term decisions in town until we solve the issue with the schools. And they've been waiting a long time. The needs are great. And I think we just really need to take this to the community and have a vote on the plan, whatever plan the Board of Education would like to bring forward this year. So I do think that's a priority for us. And then there's a lot of other policy initiatives that we've talked about wanting to pursue. I think some of this is just a bandwidth issue right now. But, I'm eager to move forward on whether it's sustainability, which is, I think, an important thing for our communities to start having some sustainability goals, an ethics commission or committee, which we've talked about. And then also maybe having a town facilities committee so that we have a permanent sitting committee overseeing it. So instead of having all these ad hocs come up as buildings get sold or changes happen and having to go through these different silo committees, I think it would be advantageous for us as a town to have just one standing committee to deal with all town facilities. So those are some of the things that'll be part of the dialogue, I think, this year. And we're continuing just to move forward on a lot of these initiatives. And I greatly enjoyed working with my board, the Board of Finance, and the Board of Education. I think we're all committed to making sure that Madison is resilient and comes back strong after this whole public health emergency. So really with that, I guess I would turn it over to questions from the public.
So as a matter of housekeeping, if we can raise our hands if we're going to make a comment. And for those of you not familiar with Zoom meetings, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a black bar. If you hit reactions, it has a little smiley face, and that's where you'll find the raise hand feature. If anyone wants to have give a comment or ask a question, now would be the time to do it. I don't see any hands raised, Peggy.
Wow. I'm sure if you have questions and have a chance to.
Oh, I have one.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, you can also email my office and I'll be happy to respond via email to any questions.
Joan, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I really like the format of tonight's town meeting. I thought it was very succinct and gave a very good overview.
Thank you.
We have a few more. John Michael Parker, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks, Peggy, for your report and for your great work. I don't have a question. I just want to briefly say thanks to the folks across our town government, including elected officials, volunteers, staff that are working so hard to make sure that our community is resilient through everything that's going on. So it's been a privilege in the last couple of weeks to get to talk to a lot of folks in town in different positions to understand priorities and what we want to be working on. And I just feel so inspired and grateful for this community, and want to thank you, Peggy, for your leadership, obviously the folks on your board, and then the town staff, all of our teachers, our first responders. It's I think so many people are encouraged by what we see right here in our community as we work through COVID. So just mostly a big thank you to everybody, and encouraged by what you shared tonight, and looking forward to helping out with some of the initiatives going forward.
Thank you.
Jason Brown.
Yeah, John Michael, Representative Parker stole my thunder there. I wanted to, while all you folks are online, my kids have decided to finally come downstairs. I just wanted to thank you for all the good work that you're doing. And I wanted to really extend my sincerest appreciation to especially the town staff. I see a lot of staff on this call, for your hard work and your efforts in keeping everything together and keeping all the meetings organized and really figuring out a different way to do business. I think that you should all be lauded for your accomplishments, and you keep getting better. So that's a great thing too. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? I don't see any other hands raised, Peggy.
I guess I got off very easy tonight, huh? Maybe I talked too long and they just left. So, all right. I guess then I can just adjourn the town meeting, correct? And thank you, everybody. The presentation is available on the website. And as I said, lionsp@madisonct.org. If you want to email me any specific questions of what you heard tonight or want information, please don't hesitate to do so. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.